And we're live. This is exciting. What do I need to do here? I need to do something before we actually get the show on the road. Yeah. Okay. Default graphics. I got to buy myself 60 seconds. There's the mouse. Haha. That's what I needed to do. I had to jump up, go and connect the business behind me, and then come back. So I'm here. I'm back. Where do I need to be sitting? I need to be sitting here. All right. Let's see what's going on. Going to be hitting the button for Instagram. Perfect. And then we're doing the thing. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service. This is Ask a Traffic Cop, that show on the internet where you get to ask the Toronto Police questions about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff in general. And yeah, that's what we're doing here. I'm very excited to be here because I'm one sec, one more button press and we'll be live. Checking connection. Yeah, so we're doing this. We're doing it. You know, this is a Monday to Friday show. And when I'm on the weekends, I'm not disconnected entirely. I'm still doing stuff and things. But I am really focused on just responding to comments. I'm not really creating content. I'm commenting and discussing and chatting and whatnot. So, yeah, we are finally in it. Okay. All the stuff is posted. Good morning to Sean Chen, Chase, Kayla. Good to see you. If you are watching and you want to ask us questions, drop in. Use the comments section. You can do that on any platform that you're seeing this on except for Twitter, which doesn't work for that. It's an unfortunate situation that we cannot correct because it's outside of our control. But you can jump over to our YouTube, our Twitter, our Twitch, our LinkedIn, our Facebook, Instagram even. Instagram works. You have a Q&A function, and that's this camera here. They're the only vertical view right now. Everybody else is seeing the same feed out of the magical folks at Restream. And I got to say, I am so happy that we can do this because as much as I appreciate the vertical video bits of the stuff, I think it just looks nicer. Now, if you want to jump onto any of our social medias or reach out to me, there is a scatter code. Where is it? It's wrong. Yeah, there. It's up there. There was the wrong screen. I'm looking at the wrong screen for this. Let me switch that around because I want to look at the right screen. Here we go. Did I just do that right? Did I? Here we go. Yeah, I want to look at the right screen because now I can look at the camera that I'm speaking to and see all these wonderful comments. Before we get into stuff and things, I want to briefly address Vision Zero Enforcement Team. They are a dedicated group of officers spending time today in 31 Division and 41 Division. And people often ask, well, what does that mean? What do those areas actually look like? Who spends time in these places? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you as soon as I pull up my where to go. I had it here a second ago. I want to tell you what the neighborhoods are. Those are the neighborhoods of Black Creek, Humbermead, Downsview, Humber Summit, Dorset Park, Kennedy Park, Birch Cliff, Cliffside. Those are neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play, and they deserve to be safe. And that's what these officers are out there trying to do, changing driver behavior. Well, what kind of driver behavior are we talking about? Very specifically, speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. Those are the driving characteristics or behaviors that are known to lead to serious injury and death on our roads. And it's unacceptable behavior. We know that if we can change those, we can save lives. So why do people do it? That's a really good question. Why do people engage in things that are dangerous? You know what? I don't know. Is it because they're entitled? Is it because they don't think it's a big deal and this is all propaganda from the police saying that if you drive quickly, you're going to hurt people? I don't know. But we do want to change those behaviors. So no hugs given, just tickets. Now, what happens to those tickets? We see if you're a learner, if you're somebody under the graduated licensing permit, you've got more to lose than everybody else. Because if you receive a ticket that has 4 demerit points or more, you're automatically getting a 30-day suspension on your first conviction, a 90-day on your third. You get kicked out of the program on your sorry, did I say that right? 30 days for your first, 90 days on your second, and you get kicked out of the program on your third. Yeah, I think I got it right now. And that's serious. That's a serious consequence because you get to start at the beginning of the line. And if you're an experienced driver, okay, that you don't get kicked out, but those 4 points do go on your license. And insurance companies, well, they don't like points. They also don't like convictions of any kind, and your insurance rates are going to go up. Eventually, of course, you meet a threshold where they're going to send you a letter saying, hello, wake up. Learn to drive properly, follow the rules, or don't drive. That's a different situation. That all comes eventually. Okay, let's jump into some questions because we've got them here to respond to. Chase says, I guess Ask a Traffic Cop is my family today. Well, if you're alone, then we are happy to be your extended family in the traffic game. But you know what? If you have family that is not with you, but you want to bring them into the game, you want to bring them some knowledge, some information about traffic safety, then by all means, invite them. It is awesome. Listen, the show's called The Family. I called it The Family Show, but it's the same show we do every day. We just want to encourage you to spend time with your family and with us at the same time. Big Jeff Fresh has a good morning. What is this? Host says, okay, here's a great question. We've talked about this before, but we'll talk about it again. Is pulling over for a funeral just common courtesy or a law? Just no one seems to pull over anymore. So if you are being escorted if the funeral procession is being escorted by police, we're not generally pulling people over per se. We're just maintaining a lane and we're holding intersections open for that funeral procession to go through. So you may be asking about that, and you might be asking about an unescorted funeral procession, which has no special authority under the Highway Traffic Act, and they are not allowed to go through red lights. They're not allowed to do anything that would be outside of normal driving. So everyone needs to know where they're going, and they'll meet you there if the procession gets interrupted by a big bad red light, which is important to follow because there's no exemptions. And yeah, we would charge people for running through it. So do you need to pull over for one? You don't need to pull over for one. There is nothing but courtesy involved. As Q mentioned in the chat, you don't need to pull over for one. If you choose to, you may actually be causing issues in traffic, and you could be charged, not that you would be charged, you could be charged for interfering with traffic. So drive normally. And unless you're seeing a police officer giving you directions, someone with a funeral placard on their car does not give any authority at all. Okay, let's see here. What is the starting pay for a new Toronto police recruit? That, my friend, is a fantastic question, and one that I will get an answer for you while I do this. We are currently hiring at the Toronto Police, and if you're interested in becoming a member of the Toronto Police, I totally suggest you check us out. Let's see, I'm going to my own link here. tps.ca/careers, because all that information is readily available. But you know what, since we're talking about it, I figure it's a good thing to share with you. So, am I going to be able to find? Yes, I do. Cadet in training, $67,680 while you are going through the process of new applicants all the way through the police college. Once you graduate, you actually get a badge and a gun, you are going to be making $75,218. Eventually, you can work your way up, and the current first class constable rate is $107,456. And of course, they list all of the benefits and other reasons why being a member of the Toronto Police Service is possibly the best place in the world to work. But you've got to want more than a career. It's a calling. It's more than just a job. This is a place where you miss weekends and parties and family day, like I am today, not being with my family, but instead being here with you, my extended family. I still like you a lot. Well, not that much. I don't even know what the right answer is for that. How much do I like my audience? I like my audience. They're my audience. Yeah, I'm going to stop talking now. Well, at least about this. Jacob says, Happy Family Day, Sean. Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate it. I guess this is a day where you don't have to go to school. I'm hoping you get some chilling out time. You've been doing all those exams. I've been following you on Twitter. Okay. Here's a question from Manny. What if you get an out-of-province ticket? How does that infect your insurance? It affects your insurance this way. It's a conviction on your record. So it doesn't matter where you get that conviction. It's going to go onto your driver's license record, and your insurance company will have the opportunity to see it. And that means that your insurance rates may go up. And that's really what all of this is about. For the driver, these tickets will affect your insurance, and that's the reason they're given. They're given so that we can get you out of this situation where you are driving and putting people's lives at risk. These are behaviors. If you're getting a ticket for it, it's not just because we're bored. It's because that behavior is unacceptable. There's laws against it, and you shouldn't be doing it. Okay. Jacob is coming home. He's coming back to Toronto. Right on. Rosbe, how you doing? I got the message of hi, Police Officer Sean. Hello back. Okay, we've got Just a Bike asking a question. Okay, and here is the question. How can I send a video of reckless driving to get someone fined? The website form only allows pictures. So I got to tell you, first off, generally speaking, if we don't witness the event, it's hard to lay charges. We need to be able to establish the location, time, date, identity of the driver. All those things need to be possible. And just having the driver drive through in your video isn't sufficient for laying charges. That's possible that we might find information. It might be sufficient. And we don't want to dissuade you from making the report. In fact, we definitely want you to make the report, because even if we can't lay charges, we can contact the registered owner of the vehicle. We can tell them that they were noticed at this time and date, and that their driving behavior is people are taking notice. And we start a file, because that is a real report associated with their license plate. So next time we pull them over, if we've observed something, we just have additional information to go on. So it's definitely valuable. We just may not be able to lay charges simply on your stuff. So how would you do it? That was really the question. How do you send the video? You can upload it to a free service like Dropbox and send us a link so we can download it. You can post it on YouTube and then send us a link so we can view it. Those are all options for you. And you don't have to make it a public video. You can make it a private video that requires a link, which is probably the way to go. Okay, let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Happy Family Day to you and your family. Thank you very much. Jag says, how do cops verify valid insurance? A fantastic question by JJag. The answer is that we have access to whether, we have a couple of different ways. One, we can see if the ministry system has you up to date. They do checks, and we can see within a certain window whether or not there's a cause for concern. But we can also call your insurance company and say, hey, what's the status of your insurance? And that's exactly what we would do, at least what I do when I was investigating collisions on the road, or not just collisions, but even traffic stops. If something looked out of date, if there was cause for concern, I would call. And we have up to 3 years to lay that charge, so I can make a note of it and make a call later when we're not sitting at the side of the road. And if I have to, I'll come visit you at home and lay a new charge. Yes, Chase giving good advice. Use a YouTube link. Absolutely. So we said that. We covered it. Perfect. Hey, if you're watching and you want to know what all these great links are, or at least icons are on your screen below me, of course, we're on TikTok, where we have over 600,000 followers. We have YouTube, where we'd love to have you follow us. Twitch, if you're into that. LinkedIn is a great place as well, and this is all being live streamed to all of these places simultaneously. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Twitter's the only place you can't ask us questions. And then there's that sign. What does that sign mean? That is the logo for Volley app. It's a place where you can send us video, voice, or text. And just checking to see, do we have any? Let's see. We might even have some messages. If that decides to respond, I'll just go on my phone, because nothing. I didn't actually publish my video. Hang on. I want to publish the video that I shouldn't be doing this. Okay. Motorcycle. No, it was dirt bike. So someone asked me the question of dirt bikes on the road. Okay. Save, and I was putting in the draft. I wanted to try and get it done before, but you know what? I'm doing too many things at the same time. So I will publish that right after this video. All right, back to what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Volley. That's what I was checking. Volley allows you to send video, voice, or text. And if there is a question, there's two in here. Michael sent a TikTok. We're not going to look at that right now. And Michael also sent a dad joke for Monday with Sergeant Campbell, who said he might be joining us. I'll save that. But if you wanted to send, stuff like that, you can. And it's great to have. It's a community. The link for that is in my link tree, and if you go to the scatter code in the top right, you can actually get there. Or go to trafficcop.ca. It all works the same. Let me open up the Volley. Volley, where are we? I want to be able to share that Volley app. Okay. Log in. Sometimes I have this all queued up before the show, like an organized individual, and sometimes I don't. All right. Here's a great question. Okay, there's a lot of good questions. Lots of stuff piling in. Good. Okay. We have, what was your first job in the police force, and why did you move to your current position? I don't mind telling the story at all. My first job was as a volunteer. I was an auxiliary officer, originally assigned to traffic services. They recruited me out of the college because I was a motorcycle rider. And then later I became an auxiliary. I transferred to 32 Division, where I became an auxiliary sergeant. And then I went to 31 Division, all as a volunteer. Simultaneously, I became a special constable in court services. So I was working at Metro North Courts. And then I left for a while, came back to 2201. Then I went to Old City Hall as a supervisor. So that was my career prior to becoming a police officer. And then as a police officer, I became a patrol officer at 12 Division. So PRU. And then once they went into a amalgamation looking for traffic officers, I had already wanted to work at traffic services based on my exposure as an auxiliary officer. So I put my hand up and said, take me. And I came downtown. I worked in divisional response doing collision investigation. I did a stint in the motor squad, went to the CIB, the Criminal Investigation Bureau, did that, and then came back to the motor squad as a permanent officer. And then I had a crash. So I was driving back to the station after having a look at a collision, doing some investigation stuff, and then, I was in a collision. I was struck by a car, and I was put in a situation where I was injured and needed to find other work to do because I couldn't go on the road. I'm still in that position, but during the course of becoming or finding other things, I found this. And we created something entirely different on social media, which was, or utilizing social media to do stuff and in not only educate, but get really involved and communicate with our audience and the people that live, work, and play in the communities that we police. So great way to do some education, and it's really grown way, way, way larger than we ever thought it would. So it's awesome. But that's the very long and involved story of how I came to be sitting in this chair and looking at a camera in front of you. Hope that answers your. If you got more questions about it, feel free. I'm an open book. What do we got here? Can you legally own your own ex-police car with black and white paint in Ontario? You can own it. If it says police on it, that might become a problem. I don't think you want to have a black and white car unless it was clearly like Simon's Painters, because I've seen some shops or some cars that are painted up. They're still black and white, but they've been clearly marked as something other than police. You do not want a police car. Not everybody likes the police. You don't need to be the target of their unhappiness. But if you were to put yourself as a police officer, if you were posing as a police officer, if you had a working siren, for instance, those are actually against the law. You cannot have a functioning siren installed in a motor vehicle in Ontario. That would be a problem. If you had lights, if you were, let's say you bought it to make it a movie car and you were renting it out to movie sets, that's legal. Can't have a siren installed. So you'd have to disable that. And if you had a roof rack, like a light bar, you'd want to put a shroud on it saying you're not a police car, because being confused as a police officer is a problem, not only for your own safety, but potentially legally. Can you turn left on a red street light? In one scenario only. If you are traveling on a one-way street and you are traveling onto another one-way street, then you can, in fact, make a left on a red light if you come to a complete stop and you wait until it's safe to do that. And it has to be that there's no sign prohibiting that turn. So it is possible, but it's not. In that one scenario, it's the same as making a right turn on red, which is legal everywhere it's not signed otherwise, but you must come to a complete stop prior to making that right turn. The right turn has to be done in safety after confirming that it's safe to do so. So many people seem to forget how to drive, and that's on many levels. There's people who don't know how to drive safely. There's people who don't know how to drive whilst following the rules of the road. I don't understand the deal, but we have a lot of people who seem to be making this mistake. What is this? Is it legal? Craven Moorhead. Is it legal to have only one headlight? If you're a motorcycle, yes. If you're a motor vehicle like a car, truck, or other, no. You have to have 2 headlights to be legal. It is a requirement under the HTA. Okay. Can you confirm if drivers already in a roundabout have right-of-way? Some people use it like a 4-way. Yeah. Again, supposed to be the safest thing since sliced bread, and yet people have a lot of questions because they don't understand. If a vehicle is already within the roundabout, they have right-of-way. You must yield to the vehicles inside the roundabout, period. That's it. If you are about to enter it and there's a vehicle coming, you give them right of way. If you're entering, you don't need to signal. If you're exiting, you do need to signal. That's the basic rules around those. What is this? It's not actually me asking it, but for some reason when the host, here we go. Not being asked by me, it's being asked by Colin. Can you pull someone over for illegal tins without any other traffic violation? Yes. Some states in the United States have certain laws that require you to, like they're secondary laws. So if I pull you over for, let's say, a seatbelt, then I can charge you for the tints. In Ontario, they're all laws, and they're all, I guess, primary laws. There's no primary, secondary for HTA. So if I pull you over because you have tinted windows, I can write you a ticket for tinted windows. I don't need any other reason. I have to be able to see the driver. If I can't see that and clearly identify the driver, that is a reason. Your vehicle is unsafe, and your tints are not meeting the requirements. But I like that. I do appreciate that question because we don't get that. I like new questions. New questions are good. Let's see what's going on here. Tickets. Oh, we got a question about cycling. I like cycling stuff. Hang on. So many coming in, and now, with everything we do, we find new issues with the way we're doing it. So lots of questions coming in, and it bumps every time I try and hit it. If I'm not fast, maybe I should do it this way. I'm going to flag it as what is this? Flagging it? Okay, I pinned it. It should be noted that, what is this? I did it again. Hang on, we'll hear. I was on my phone at a red light, but the car wasn't moving. Why was I given an $850 ticket? Where are you that you got an $850 ticket? So if you're using your phone in Ontario, the charge is $615. I have no idea where $850 comes from. You are not allowed to use your phone at a red light. You're not allowed to use your phone anywhere but when you're legally parked. And legally parked means capable of leaving your vehicle unattended, and you won't get a ticket. That's legally parked. So if you're in a no stopping zone, in a no parking zone, in a no standing zone, and you're having a great day typing away to mom, that is worthy of a ticket. But again, $615, it does come with 3 demerit points and a 3-day suspension on conviction for your first. And don't do it. That's the simplest thing. Oh, this is a great question. Why do police block the road when they pull someone over, causing cars into oncoming traffic? It's unsafe. We pull people over because we're enforcing the laws. Everybody else has to be safe when moving around us. We don't shop for parking. We pull people over where we believe it's safe to do so. And could it be that someone has to go into oncoming traffic? Probably not. Generally speaking, we would pull over to the curb. You don't know what's going on. It may be a traffic thing. It could be a wanted person with a warrant. It could be somebody. There's a lot of reasons we pull people over. But in terms of why do we block the road? Because we're going to create space for ourselves to work safely at the side of the road. And in most situations, it's going to be in an area where you can get past us. But you may have to go around us, and you need to use caution when doing it. It doesn't mean just pass by into oncoming traffic. You have to dissect that. You still have to be a safe driver and get around us. How tall can I raise my truck to make weight? No. How tall can I raise my truck, and how big is the biggest tires I can use? Your tires cannot protrude beyond the fender flare. I believe you have a 1/4 inch leeway, and you can't raise your truck more than 3 inches. And you're looking at getting yourself into an unsafe situation where your vehicle is classified as unsafe. All right, unpin this. I'm going to unpin that. And what is this? What would a cop say if my truck shoots out black smoke? Chances are you don't have a proper muffler system, or you are dealing with emissions control problems, and it's very possible you're going to get tickets or require some further investigation. So if you're dumping tons of smoke, there's a problem. All right. What are the fines for not having your headlights on at night when driving? You're looking at $110 for improper headlights if they're not on. And equally, if you have your headlights off, your taillights aren't functioning properly, so you're looking at improper taillights. If you're talking about having that system off and you have daytime running lights, those are actually your high beams. You could potentially be getting tickets for that too. Rosbeth says that I've got a question up and I missed it, so I'm going to look for your question while I'm looking through other stuff, and let me do that now. We talked about this. Okay, that's a great one. We'll talk about that and come back. We talked about this already. We talked about that. Oh, here. Okay, I found your question. I flagged it. Give me 1 second. How is what is this? How is 3 demerit points stays on the license? How long? Okay, demerit points stay on your license from 2 years from the date of offense. Upon conviction, they're added, but they come off after 2 years from the date of offense. Convictions stay on your record from 3 years from the date of conviction. Hope that helps. John wants to know about, let's see here. If someone breaks into my house, can I do whatever is necessary to protect my family legally? You can't do whatever is necessary to your own personal opinion. You have to do whatever you do is going to be measured and questioned, and you're going to be criminally responsible if it's determined to be in excess. So self-defense, you can defend yourself. You can use as much force as necessary to do that. But if it's believed after the fact that you killed somebody and killing them wasn't necessary, you're going to be criminally responsible for your actions. So that's not something you want to do, and certainly doesn't give you any blanket statement for being violent or anything. That's not to say that people are happy about that. This is very specifically Canadian. In the States, they may have different laws, but here you can't use excessive force. What is this? We got McMoney. Are you guys getting those new license plate scanners on all your vehicles like the OPP is doing? I believe that all services in Ontario are going to be getting those eventually. It's just a matter of time until they are all rolled out. But that is the new technology that is going to make the reading of license plates safer for everybody. But it's not something we have at the moment. We do have some older units that have them installed. They're parking enforcement units under a project called Street Sweeper, and those are particularly focused on looking for stolen vehicles. That's what it was looking for. Okay. Oh, I got some great questions here. We talked about this. What is this? Can I get a red light ticket? Okay, we'll talk about that. We talked about this already. I'm scrolling through. I'm flagging these things because I want to make sure they don't disappear on me. Okay, going on some new ones. Hope everybody's having a great family day, by the way. And if you're watching and you have no idea who I am, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service. And I go on social media, that's how I'm talking to you now, to talk to you about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff. I want to answer questions to common concerns, topics, things that you just can't seem to find the answer to. I mean, there's stuff, we talk about the same stuff on a regular basis. And we continue to talk about the same things because people have questions. And we want to give you those answers. Because there are common misconceptions, and you need to get those questions answered. And sometimes the internet is not easy to navigate. Yeah, it's a problem. All right, let's jump into these 8 questions that I flagged. So Chase wants to bring up the fact, and as he so eloquently said, it should be noted. I like that. Sounds good. York Regional Police got a successful conviction for stunt driving from a TikTok video of a motorcycle a few months ago. Yes, very well aware of it. But it's not just that they got a conviction. They were able to identify all of the required information that they needed in order to substantiate the charge. It wasn't that somebody held a camera as someone went by doing something. There was a lot of information gathered, and all the required information was gathered from the videos. So I like that. Okay, here's a great question. And this is the one that Rosbud was asking. The police can demand a breathalyzer test even if they did not see you driving and they did not know you were last drove. Is this a statement or is it a question? So in order to use mandatory alcohol screening, they would we would have to have you lawfully stopped from a traffic stop, and you got to be the driver of the car for mandatory alcohol screening. Now, if there was a concern where the police come to your house to investigate afterwards, I believe there's a window, and I'm going to say don't quote me on it because I've had this conversation several times, but I still can't remember the details. I believe there's a 2-hour window where they can demand a breath sample and still utilize that information. They do have to. There's breathalyzer, there's roadside screening device, and then there's breathalyzer. There's a lot of different factors. And now I'm delving into an area that I'm not 100% on because I'm talking about the 2 hours after, and I better to have the breath tech talk about it than me. But roadside screening device for mandatory alcohol screening. If I pull you over for speeding and I say making a demand for a roadside screening device, you are obligated by law to provide that sample. And if you don't, we'll charge you criminally for refusing. I should text the Sarge because maybe he can come up and talk about the other half of it, of the 2-hour window. It's just something that I've never dealt with. The law changed since I've been off the road, and as much as I've talked about it in casual conversation, I've not really read up on it, not in details. I don't want to give you bad info, but I believe it's a 2-hour window. What is this? If I'm making a right on red and someone is doing a U-turn and there's a collision, who is wrong? Both of you. See, they have to ensure that their left turn is done safely, and which is part of the U-turn, or the U-turn has to be done safely. And if you're making a right, you have to make sure that you can complete your turn safely. So you're both eligible for charges for your component. Who's more responsible? Chances are the person doing the U-turn. But that doesn't mean that either of you are off the hook. You're both responsible to some degree. Really bothers people, that answer. How do you measure exhaust loudness? It is, we don't. I mean, in terms of laying an unnecessary noise charge, it's based on our observations. There's no measurement required. I was there and I observed it and I heard it and this is what it sounded like and I can feel it in my chest. That's sufficient for laying an unnecessary noise charge. But in terms of a specific charge under the bylaws for motorcycles, 92 decibels, there is a decibel meter employed by the folks who utilize that, which is what are they called? Bylaw enforcement officers. Okay. Unflag that one. Can I get a red light camera ticket if I go through to make way for emergency vehicles? If you are traveling through a red light, yes, you can, because you're not supposed to go through a red light for anyone. You're not entitled as a driver to go through a red light for an emergency vehicle or otherwise. The only thing you can do is pull over to the nearest curb or edge of roadway as required by law. If you want to make a right turn to get out of the way, you can. That's a legal option if you come to a complete stop and then turn. But you can't just drive through a red light because that's running a red light. You don't have the authority to do that. In fact, nobody does. A police officer has to come to a complete stop prior to going through a red light, even if they have full emergency equipment on. So don't do it. Ooh, can I train someone who is on a G1 and I do have a G license with no 4 dots on it? If you don't have the 4 dots, you probably don't have the sufficient amount of experience. You have to have 4 years of experience. That experience starts when you get your G2. So if you have 2 years as a G2 and 2 years as a G and you don't have any suspensions or interruptions on your licensing status, chances are you would be able to, but I wouldn't do it unless you have the 4 dots. So go talk to the Ministry of Transportation and confirm whether or not you're eligible, because if you're not, you're looking to get them into trouble as well as yourself. You have to have that experience in order to be valid. And otherwise, not only could they get charged with driving unaccompanied because you don't count, there's no insurance. Like they're not properly insured. Let's see here. Oh, here's a question. For an Uber/delivery driver, is it okay to park in a park lot while they are waiting for a new trip? So you're sitting in the vehicle stopped and waiting in a parking lot. Technically speaking, if you're parked in that parking lot and someone wants to give you a ticket for it, you are parked there and you're not paying for parking. You can argue that you were stopped not parking, but chances are they wouldn't charge you for it, but that's up to them. It's their property, so you can't just hang out in someone's private property if they charge for that space. What it would be better to do is find a legal parking spot where you are permitted to stop and where they're not charging you parking, because that would make more sense. But it's an interesting question that I've never actually spent time thinking about. So thank you for that. Let's see what else we've been ignoring the folks here on Instagram. So we'll do this. Oh, that's a great question. Radix wants to know, when two officers are in a police cruiser, who decides who's driving? It depends on who wants to drive that night. Some people don't like driving, oddly enough. I like driving. I usually drove. But it's entirely, there's no, I mean, when I was a rookie, in the beginning, my coach drove. And then the coach said, now you're driving. But it really depends on the dynamic of the partnership. As a traffic officer, we drive alone. So I know exactly who's driving every night. Hey, Sarge, are you coming this way? He's going to join. It looks good. We think he's going to join. And it's good timing that you're joining, because there's questions to be discussed. What am I doing here?
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. I'm going to switch cameras because we can do that now. Hey. Here's camera number 2. Mic is on.
Good morning.
We are a go. We were, so Radix said, when two officers are in a cruiser, who decides who's driving?
Rock, paper, scissors, usually.
Yeah, I was just saying, some people don't like to drive. I've always liked to drive.
Yeah, me as well. I don't mind driving at all.
Okay. So one of the questions that I was unclear on, I'm glad you came because I wanted to throw it at you. The 2-hour the impaired driving making demands and being able to have a larger window for impaired operation. I remember having this discussion, but I don't remember it well enough to really to give advice on it. So mandatory alcohol screening deals with side of the road, and that changes suspicion versus no suspicion and how we can do that. But I understand there's also a 2-hour window that if we were to attend after the fact, we could still...
Yeah, so it's a 2-hour presumptive window, and it's done so that you can... It eliminates the bolus drinking of some offenders. If they get into a crash, they run away, they run into a bar, and they go, okay, give me 6 drinks. To try and say, oh, I drank after the fact, and I wasn't drinking beforehand. So the presumptive is that whatever your reading is within the 2-hour window would have been the same as the reading is at the time of the offense.
Okay, that is clearer than it was before. And I'll probably forget in 6 minutes, and we'll talk about it again another time.
You know what? For every rule that is made up and every change in the law and everything, it's because people are doing it. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the government sometimes takes time to react to trends that people are doing to be able to close that gap in that window. You know what? When people are crashing, when people are hurting people, we want them to be held accountable for what they're doing. And if you know a loophole to get out of it, it's the government's responsibility to investigate that and maybe tighten up that loophole.
I like it. I'm just going through and scrolling a whole bunch of questions, I should say. Here's one from Hey Jose. Do citations from driving stateside affect your Canadian license? So you're an Ontario driver, you go into Buffalo, New York, and you get a ticket. Does that affect your Canadian license? We have a reciprocal agreement with the state of New York. So yeah, any tickets from there would be finding their way to your license here. But generally speaking, I think now anywhere in the United States has the ability of sending us that information. Whether they require to or not is another story.
Yeah, I think there was limited states that were doing it years ago, and I think with the ability to have better communications between state to state and country to country, most of them have reciprocal agreements that will affect the driver's license, including impaired driving. So if you get an impaired driving down in the U.S., it is a different charge down there and a different criteria, but there's still the same mandatory administrative penalties could apply up here, even though your criminal charges are being dealt with down there.
Here is an interesting one. I looked up the Motorcycle Act. It says passengers have to be over 13 years old, highways, all roads. I don't know a Motorcycle Act. I don't know what jurisdiction you're referring to. I know that there was at one time something proposed in the Ontario Highway Traffic Act suggesting that there should be a minimum requirement. However, I don't believe that is the case, that it ever got passed. It is the only requirement that you have to be able to touch the foot pegs. I believe that they scrapped that whole movement to change it.
Now, there are different laws that affect motorcycles, dirt bikes, off-road vehicles. The Off-Road Vehicle Act, I believe it is 12.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So when you're not on the road.
Well, or operating on the road as well, because some off-road vehicles are allowed to be operating on the road under certain conditions.
So it really depends on what act you're under. But I'm not familiar with a motorcycle act. So maybe you could be talking about the Off-Road Act. You could be talking about another.
And that's specifically Ontario. It could be other jurisdictions have different
rules.
Different rules.
Absolutely. Can the scanners read blue plates?
Yes.
I believe they can.
That was the whole reason for actually changing the design of the blue plates, so that the ALPR, or the automatic license plate readers, can get a better picture of it. And unfortunately, it just made it harder for people to see.
Yes. What is this? We have. Okay, let's play. We got a question from, I don't know which channel this is going to come on, so I'm going to put them all up here and see which one it reacts. Got a question from Volley from our friend Chase.
So if the driver drops something on the floor and they have to grab it and they tell the passenger to hold the steering wheel while they're doing that, is there any charges applicable for the driver? And for the passenger, like if they're unlicensed or like if the driver's speeding, is there any responsibility for them holding the wheel?
That is possibly the most interesting question I've had from you. Like a driver is the driver, and if they drop something on the floor and they need to get it urgently, they should pull over and do it safely because they're eligible for careless driving.
Or dangerous, depending on
dangerous.
Here, you drive for me as I pay attention to something else and do something, or
Yeah.
No.
And you're not driving because you're holding the steering wheel. So are you eligible for charges as a passenger holding the wheel? You may be involved in a severe collision if things go badly. But just alone, the driver's still a driver, and they're still responsible. And I'd be looking at careless driving at the very least.
Oh, at the minimum.
Let's see here. Is it illegal? This is a question for you. Is this illegal to drive a 6x6 six-wheel? Six. No, this is not what I was thinking about. Okay. I assumed off-road vehicles. So now I've read it 16 times, and we're talking about vehicles with extra wheels, like an extra axle. So a pickup truck that's been modified to have 2 rear axles.
As long as it's built that way and passes the Transport Canada safety, no problem at all. We look at transport trucks; they have multiple axles
For sure.
to carry the load. The reason they have multiple axles is, first of all, sometimes the weight has to be spread out between more axles, so as not to injure the roadway. And they actually do call it injuring the roadway. And sometimes a single axle won't be able to handle that weight and operate safely.
So I've seen some colossal vehicles in the States that are built up. They're just there's a Mercedes G-Wagon that has an extra set of wheels. There's only a few of them that were made, from what I understand. I don't know why anyone would want one. They look pretty boss, though.
Yeah,
they look cool.
They do.
We have no signal, no sign intersection of a main road and side road. Who has the right of way to turn left? No signal, no sign, intersection of a. I'm not sure what I'm reading. Do you understand what I'm reading?
No. So I would imagine any road in Ontario that is an actual proper road will have a sign indicating what to do at the intersection of another road. If it's a private drive, then obviously you have to stop and make sure the road is clear before entering the private right. Is this a T intersection? Is this a cross intersection? We'd need a little bit more information.
Yeah. But here's one general rule. If you are turning, you don't have the right of way. The traffic coming straight on that has no other interruption, they're just carrying on, you need to yield to those people.
Yeah.
So don't be making turns and causing collisions. That's bad. Let's see here. Can you get a traffic violation if you block an intersection while in traffic? Yeah. Yep. So let's say you enter an intersection without the ability to exit it. You end up getting stuck and you create all that whole gridlock. There's a bylaw in the City of Toronto for failed to clear signalized intersection. I don't know. Is there also one under the HTA? I don't know if there is one. At very least, a bylaw. Interfere with traffic?
Yeah. You know what? Most people that have lawfully entered the intersection do have the legal right to clear it before the opposing traffic can come through. That being said, if you do not enter an intersection with the ability to clear it, you may be held liable for that.
For sure. Here's a great one. How is it a person's fault when they turn when the other person is going straight doing 80 and a 50? So turning person in general is at fault. They're responsible for ensuring that a turn can be made in safety prior to them doing it. If there was a vehicle approaching and they were speeding, that vehicle could be charged with speeding. That's different. And both can be true at the same time.
Yep, but you would be at fault in the collision.
Yes.
Any person crossing a travel lane of traffic can only make that movement when it is safe to do so. The obligation is on that person.
Is it careless driving when someone passes your left on a 2-lane street and hits you when you turn left? Oh, we've talked about this before. It depends. It depends because you can pass, and it is actually technically your responsibility to ensure that you can turn. And if you turn out in front of a car that's passing you, you can be held responsible.
So, yeah, once again, anybody turning and crossing a travel lane of traffic can only do so when it is safe. And that is approaching traffic and traffic from behind. Emergency vehicles are allowed to go out and pass you. So if they're allowed to do it, other vehicles may be allowed to do it. Now, you have an obligation to signal your intention. You have an obligation to let the traffic behind you know that you're slowing down, preparing to make a turn. If somebody was to come out and pass multiple vehicles, not have the ability to see what your intention is, they would be held somewhat liable for it as well.
Yes. We don't always determine fault. We're primarily telling a story of what has happened based on the events and evidence that's there. We take statements from the people who provide statements, and then we also lay charges for the offenses that we see. But at the end of the day, the insurance companies and the courts determine fault after reviewing everything. Okay, we got a question. We got another volley from Chase. It's interesting.
So assuming a police officer pulls someone over in an area without much signal or reception or Wi-Fi or anything, do they have to write tickets like the old-fashioned way by paper? And any of the licensing information or vehicle information, is that stored on the police vehicle usually? Or is that like stored somewhere else and they have to use the internet to look it up?
So interesting questions as per usual from Chase, who's coming in by way of volley. If you want to use volley to ask us questions, you're more than welcome to jump in. You can scan the code in the top left-hand corner of the screen, or go to trafficcop.ca and click that button that says "Ask us a question" on volley. So the question is, if a police officer is in some rural area, well, in Toronto, which really I can only speak to Toronto, we have coverage everywhere here. And, for our computers, and we're cellular based. So anywhere a cell phone can get access, we're going to be able to get access. And even our radios are phenomenal for going outside of the area. So I don't think this is a scenario that we really have to address. But
that being said, John, writing a ticket, especially when you're using it electronically, we have the ability to create that ticket and print it in the car. Mm-hmm. And the information is not sent back to the mainframe until there's proper signal. It gets stored in the police car, and then will be sent back as soon as the signal is available.
Yeah, so we can hit send and send it, or it gets stored locally. So, but let's say the computers and we had what do you call it? That electromagnetic disruption, a brownout. Something happened. We do have the ability of reverting to a paper-based system, and we could use radio communication, assuming that was functioning, to get the information we needed. So interesting.
Yep, radio communication is an awful lot easier sometimes than data communication. Our radio signals are pretty strong, so if we can't get it off our own computer, then we phone a friend, phone a dispatcher, phone a colleague, and get that information.
And even if let's say we had our trunk system and everything was having issues there, we could revert to a repeater-based simplex system or a simplex system and pass. Like, there's ways of doing it. Is a third brake light required? By law of a manufacturer, when they sell a car here, it's required. For you who's driving a car, actually only one brake light is required. You have to have 2 headlights and 1 brake light before you are at a minimum, or you're eligible for a charge under the HTA.
Yeah, but to safety a vehicle to have it put on the road, then yes, it does. It is required. And there are cars out there that didn't require it back in the time. I'm going to say probably the late 80s, early 90s when the third brake light started. So if you have a car earlier than that, it wasn't manufactured with it, didn't need it at the time,
Still don't.
you still don't.
Francisco Tony Campos coming in from LinkedIn says, do you have any experience, knowledge regarding traffic gardens in communities? Sounds like a really awesome idea for educating youngsters on basic traffic laws and rules of the road. I know that York Region and a number of the regional services have these community villages where local companies fund it, and they put up little Tim Hortons and little roads, and they get the electric cars and drive around on bicycles. I think it's a fantastic idea. We don't have one in Toronto, and I don't know how it is, or maybe we just don't have any free space to do it. But it is fantastic, and I want to take my kids to one of them in a neighboring community just so they can have the experience.
Yeah, I know Durham Region and York Region both do.
Very cool, yeah, and they're really well done. Those services have got some fantastic access to space and support from local community to make those things happen. But who knows? Maybe we'll get one of those in Toronto one day. Is it illegal to flash your high beams or you flash your lights to let someone know you have their high beams on, or they have their high beams on? Boy, I've really messed that up. So, can you flash your high beams to tell someone their high beams are on? Is it reasonable? Is it technically breaking the law? Technically, yeah, you're improperly using your high beams. But
You both would be at that time.
yeah, at that point, you can share a ticket.
But is it reasonable?
It's reasonable.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And not, I'm going to get this person back and I'm going to put my high beams on and hold them there. No, a quick flash to alert somebody that, they're doing something wrong.
For sure.
Yeah.
How long does a warning for speeding stay on your record? A warning never goes on your record. Warnings are warnings. They stay in our system so we can see them. But in terms of the warning being on your record, it never gets to your record. That's the whole idea of it being a warning. If it was a charge and a conviction, that goes on your record. Yeah.
So there is a database that the MTO keeps, and that's where all convictions and everything go. But each police service has a database as well. And thanks.
You're welcome.
And that will be in our database. So we'll be able to see it.
Yes.
We'll get to know that you got a break the last time, and you're probably not getting a break this time.
I can't tell you how many times I pulled someone over and it says they got multiple warnings. And I'm like, your warnings have run out. In fact, I only believe in one warning. And even then, it depends on the charge. If it's a serious offense, there's no warnings being given. Chase, who's hitting us up on both platforms, sometimes voice, sometimes type. Can you explain how Crime Stoppers works and its relationship with the police service? I can't speak to Crime Stoppers with any real information because I've never worked with Crime Stoppers. I know that they're an extension. We work in conjunction with them, but I don't know the inner workings. Do you know the inner workings?
No, on a very high level, it is an independent organization that will take information from citizens reporting about crime, and they're kind of the go-between, so that the person reporting the crime doesn't have to directly talk with the police. No information is given to the police about who they are, and all that information is followed up. You do get a report number, an account number, or something with Crime Stoppers, and if that information leads to a conviction, you could be eligible for a reward.
Rewards are good.
Yep. And you know what? Giving information to the police, and if you're scared because of reprisals, things like that, then that's a great way to pass that information along.
The ability to share information that's important to the community while doing it anonymously is excellent. Is it illegal to ride your bike on the sidewalk? In Toronto, it is. If you are 14 or older, it is illegal for you to use your bicycle on the sidewalk. It's illegal for anyone to use an e-bike on the sidewalk, regardless of your age. Mind you, you have to be 16 to ride an e-bike in any case. And even if you rollerblade, skateboard, or scooter, whatever mode of transportation you use on a sidewalk that isn't specifically outlined, if you do it in such a way that it's dangerous to pedestrians, there's charges for that as well. So the big thing is be safe however you're traveling and however you're whether you're on the road or on the sidewalk, because there are ways of dealing with it. But bicycles in Toronto are specifically not permitted on the sidewalk if you're 14 or over.
We have a lot of pedestrians here, and we have to keep them safe as well. So
they need a place to be.
Yep.
We're big on pedestrian safety and keeping our vulnerable road users safe. But it's amazing how that inconveniences people sometimes, and so be it. If you're on a bicycle, you have the benefit of going faster. Stay on the road in the bicycle lane if it exists, or to the right, and make sure drivers, you give them the 1 meter space minimum that they need to be safe. And we're big on that too. If you are riding too close to a to a cyclist, you're putting them at risk, and they are not they have the right to be safe, so they are entitled to an entire lane if they need it for safety. So if there was if they couldn't stay to the right because there was gravel or issues in the road, then they have the ability of moving all the way over and taking up that entire lane. If they're able to move to the right, then they should. And there's all sorts of other things, but it gets into a deep dive of holy moly, we need to keep everybody safe. What happens if your taillight goes out while you're driving without you knowing? Is that an offense? It's an offense even if you didn't know what happened. Yes. This is a good reason to do circle checks on a regular basis. Obviously, if you did a circle check before you left the house, and then you left the house and bingo bango, something happened, is it reasonable? It's reasonable. Now, you do have 2 brake lights out. That's a problem, because it means you went driving with 1 brake light out. Now the second one has gone out, and yeah, you're still eligible.
You did say, though, that you only require 1 red light to the rear.
Absolutely.
And 1 brake light.
The reason I bring it up is let's say if you're doing circle checks and you notice that one of them is out, get it fixed, because then you've got the ability to maintain always 1 going out. So you don't get a ticket until you have none. But this is about maintenance and keeping track of your vehicle. So if you have 1 go out, fix it. That way you don't run into the situation of having none. Boy, that was a really circular conversation. What is this? Oh, stopped at a red light. It won't change to green. I'm in the left lane. What can I do? Just sit there? If you're on a motorcycle, this is very common. And I've if it was possible, yeah, well, if it's a regular city and it's daytime and there's people coming and going, I try and bring people closer to me. I'm like, if they're stopping way, giving me lots of space, I'm like, come on, inch up, make sure that sensor goes. If there's nobody around, I might make the right turn legally when it's safe to do so and make a U-turn and continue. I may actually get off my bike and go press the button. Now, if you're in a car, it's unlikely that it's not changing, but it's possible.
So at most signalized intersections in Ontario, there are sensors in the roadway. And you can see that because there's cuts in the road that they have patched up again. There'll be straight lines or maybe into a box. Riding a motorcycle, because these are magnetic sensors, it's best to try and position your vehicle over top of these sensors, or your motorcycle probably on top of one of those lines for it to best be able to pick up the vehicle above it.
Yes. There's a couple of really good questions here. Can I keep my Quebec license plate if I live in Ontario for 1.5 years? No.
Ce n'est pas possible.
Yeah. The deal is that you have 30 days to register your vehicle in Ontario after becoming a resident. You have 60 days to apply for a Quebec license, driver's license.
A Quebec driver's license?
Sorry. You have
How
to
about
take,
an Ontario one?
Yes, that's a better idea. You have to register for your vehicle in Ontario after 30 days or within 30 days and get an Ontario license applied for within 60 days once you become a resident. When you go back home, you can go and apply to get a Quebec one again. And here's one I like, or I'm interested in talking about. When merging on the highway, do I need to let a car in, i.e. when someone doesn't respect the zipper? So here's a really thing. I'm curious if your version of the zipper is the same as my version of the zipper. So the ideal employment of the zipper is the zipper joins at the end of the on-ramp lane. So you should be taking advantage of the entire lane and not scooting in as soon as there's an opening. Should you block them from doing it? No. In fact, preventing someone from changing lanes could be stunt driving. There are that's specifically outlined there, preventing someone from changing lanes or passing.
Although, I don't know if in this situation that would be applied.
If you hit the gas and block someone?
So the obligation is on the person that's merging. The obligation is on the person that is actually changing lanes to do it when it's safe to do so. There is no obligation, although it's ignorant if you don't.
Yes.
There's no obligation to move over to let somebody in. Most people do it because it's safer to do it. What if that person doesn't see you and all of a sudden you're involved in a collision? So move over if you can, leave space if you can. It's safer to do it that way because you don't want to be sitting at the side of the road waiting for a tow truck because somebody has accidentally not seen you and made an unsafe move.
And I'm not suggesting you have to move over, but if someone were to see someone initially start changing lanes and they're just not happy because the way they've stated it here is that someone doesn't respect the zipper and they accelerate to block them, now they're taking aggressive maneuver. Like they're not just There was a safe space, and they've chosen to close the gap to make it not safe. That's where I have an issue. That could be careless. That could be a number of different things. There's no obligation to make room for them, but I don't think you can create an unsafe situation if it was safe when they started the lane change.
Short story, Sean. I was traveling southbound on the Don Valley Parkway late at night. I watched a person traveling in the right lane did not move over didn't change the speed, but did not move over for a car that was merging. The car that was merging was upset at that car for not moving over for him, had to hammer on the brakes at the end of the on-ramp, then got really upset, floored it, went out, passed them on the left, and then cut them off and slammed on the brakes.
That's not okay.
Guess what happened to that guy?
I imagine they got pulled over.
Oh, yes. We had a very long conversation, and they got my autograph on an awful lot of piece of paper.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's way beyond what I think we were talking about.
Right.
But absolutely, that scenario is a perfect example of someone who's not doing the right thing. If you are merging, it's on you to do it safely.
Yeah.
But again, if it was something you could have done safely and someone's just upset with you because they don't want to let you in, I think that's I think we're on two sides of the same coin. Let's see here. If your motorcycle license plate waves in the wind and becomes non-visible, what is the fine like? Well, if your plate is not visible or clearly legible, it is a $110 fine.
If it's waving in the wind, it's insecure.
Oh, well,
And I would write 2 tickets.
if it was a zip tie, you could argue that it's secure, but it's not properly affixed as per the regulation.
Sorry, carrying any load on your vehicle has to be tied down on all four corners.
But motorcycle license plates generally only have 2 screws.
But anything else has to be tied down, like your ATV in the back needs 4 corners.
Yes, yes.
So if your license plate is flapping around,
By the way, we like doing this back and forth thing where we argue the minutia. What is the penalty? This is a good one. What is the penalty for Ontario for riding in ORV, dirt bikes, on public roads?
oh ho ho! I don't think you could come up with an exact amount for a penalty. Everything would apply. Improper license, improper insurance, no license plates, improper brakes, improper tires because they're off-road vehicle tires, improper lighting, no horn. I would go on and go on. Turn signals, road legal muffler, everything.
So we're talking just for the insurance alone, $5,000 to $25,000 in fines, and then everything you've listed there is either $100 to $110 on average. Then you start. So we're well over, even without the insurance, you're in the thousands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't do it.
John, I got to make a shout out because I know we're nearing the end here, but I got to make a shout out to 10 brand new police officers that we're going to meet this afternoon.
Oh.
They're coming to traffic services. Freshly minted right out of the police college. This is their first day at their division, and they're coming here.
Exciting stuff.
Looking forward to meeting them this afternoon.
Yeah, well, I think that is some of my fondest memories were the first day before anyone yelled at me.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's good. Welcome to the family. It's family day, and we're welcoming them to the family. I got to try working on words.
Easy for you to say.
Something that I was going to talk about earlier, and the whole hour went by without touching it, but we've been talking about traffic safety and specifically about pedestrian safety and bicycle safety and car safety, because we talk about all those things all the time. And, crossing the street is something that some people have said, how do you do it safely? And they were calling it a task. And looking both ways before you cross the street being the most important way, people, I think, overcomplicate things. We talk about looking left and right before you cross the street, and what does that really mean? It's looking for anything that could be coming your way, because motorists, you can't trust them. I'm sorry to say, can't trust. In fact, I don't think you can trust anybody. I was making a left turn on my way home from work on Friday, and as I'm mid-turn, an e-bike ran the red light and crossed in front of me. So my life flashed before my eyes because I figured I was going to take this guy out. But fortunately, no collision occurred. Not only was the e-bike going quickly, not wearing a helmet, so a whole bunch of issues. But, in that situation, it doesn't matter who's at fault. It's a bad day at the office. The reason I bring this up is we'll talk more about this on another day, but I want to talk about the fact that we try and give messaging to everybody. So whether it's a driver, a pedestrian, or a cyclist, we want you to be safe. That is the goal of what we do here at Traffic Services, is to provide messaging for all parties. And sometimes people get upset that we're telling them things, and other times people appreciate it, and we can't change that. Sometimes people will be upset.
You know what? You may be dead right. And I use the word dead right because you maybe have the legal right to do it, but you put yourself into a risk that can cost you your life. So it's a shared responsibility for all road users out there, including pedestrians. I was telling you the story earlier that, when you're walking across a railway track or you're driving across a railway track, even though the lights and arms are not going, the arms aren't down, do you not always instinctively kind of look left and right on the railway tracks beforehand, just in case? You do. And as a pedestrian, you should also do the same thing.
When I'm crossing, if I remember, I lived in Florida for a period of time, and I remember not only listening but feeling. I wanted to hear if there was a rumble coming, because it's amazing how that vibration of the tracks, you actually can feel the train coming before you can hear it.
Yep.
That's the hour. We're like 6 minutes late for going off the air. I do have there's just these that were good. Should we just do these before we go?
All right, let's see how
we can do them.
Yep.
Okay. How can an Ontario resident view their driving record? Go to the MTO. You can order an abstract of your driving history. You can either get the short or the full. Most employers don't want to see the full unless they request it.
And by MTO, you mean Service Ontario?
Service Ontario. I always say MTO, but and I used to go to the MTO with where the OPP is now, and now you just go to any Service Ontario thing. Yeah. Boy, I'm old. Except different ways of doing things. I applied for a plate renewal yesterday. Can I drive until renewal is done, or I get a renewal in the mail? Actually, that's instantaneous. You have a receipt in your hand. If you paid for it and it said it's done, it's done. System's updated. That's the whole joy of the new system, assuming it was complete.
Unless you are a vehicle that does require an actual plate sticker, and they will only allow you to renew it online if they're given enough time for you to receive it.
Yes. If you're past that window, it's got to be done in person.
Yeah.
And that is always an option. If you're expiring tomorrow, you've waited too long, you might be better off to go to the ministry anyway. But if it's online and it doesn't require the actual sticker to be in hand, so it won't actually authorize it unless it can be done, then you should be good to go.
And I'm assuming, because you applied for it yesterday, that your birthday has come up or has just gone by, so happy birthday.
Yes, happy belated. I lost my G license. If I get pulled over, can I show them my G2 license? Ooh.
First of all, you shouldn't have your G2 license. It's unlawful to possess more than one.
It's no longer valid.
Yep.
So yeah, if you were to have both in your license as a ticket, both in your wallet as a ticket for having both of them, yeah, you can't. But you can go and not only online, I think you can online report the loss of your license, and you can go and get a new one. And they'll give you a temporary license right then and there. So just get it done. There's no good excuse for not getting it done. Okay, second to last question, and that is, what is the length of time of suspension when charged for careless driving with a G2 license? Well,
depends.
That's right, because your first conviction, because it's over 4 points, is going to be a 30-day suspension. Your second, if it's your second conviction and second suspension, it's going to be 90 days. If it's your third, you're getting kicked out of the program. This is not good stuff.
And,
actually.
And you know what? You could be charged. Well, upon getting charged with it, the judge or justice could decide that an additional period of suspension is appropriate, and that can happen.
Here's the last one. Last question. How fast can a three-wheel disability scooter go on a sidewalk? I don't know if they've posted a specific limit. It's got to be done safely. You can't be, I've heard people who want to modify their three-wheel mobility scooters to go really, really fast, and that's not acceptable. If it's being done unsafely, it falls under that other category where there's there are laws available for being unsafe on the sidewalk.
Right. And you know what? When you modify it, is it any longer a disability scooter or just a three-wheeled fun
wagon?
Yeah.
It's not. Well, that's the thing. It's got to be as per the manufacturer specs when it took that sticker and put it on and said it's a disability scooter. Yeah. But I don't know what that speed is, quite frankly. And I keep looking at this camera, which is no longer on. It's not this camera, so I've been staring at the wrong place for like half the show.
Oh, you were talking to me.
It's true. And that, unless there's something really magical, be nice to the new guys later. That's from Donovan. Caitlin, who I haven't seen in a while, says, hey, there we go. We'll put it on screen. Sean once said, your right of way is a privilege. Check and make yourself safe first. I love that. I'm glad you loved it. I didn't remember saying that, but I was really good when I said that.
Yeah, apparently you were.
I also say that there's right of way and right of weight, because you can have the right of way, and the right of weight still wins.
Yeah, yield to gross tonnage.
I like that too. What is this?
You just swirled again there, yeah.
Well, yeah, because why are studded tires banned? There's so many good questions today. I guess people are at home,
Well.
and we're getting more engagement and awesomeness.
Come back tomorrow.
Yes, except we'll probably be at work tomorrow. But come back tomorrow anyway. It's just what we need to say. It's contractually obligated. But studded tires are banned because they ruin roads. And when people steal the car, can we get it back? Generally speaking, the insurance company pays you out for it, and they own it, and they do what they think is. They're all over the country, over the world now. Cars disappearing and going. I don't think it pays to bring it back. Not that you'd want it. And I think that's it. Okay, Kayla with the final message of saying goodbye. Stay safe, and remember, don't have a good family day. Have a great family day.
I agree.
And that is the ultimate goodbye. Thank you, Akila, for that. Here is the traffic song to say goodbye.
And you know what? I'm going to say goodbye to my family because I think they're watching.
And my family, too. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed, and watch your driving. Don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get